This is the original pin punisher. I've been bowling all my life. Professional bowling is my passion, and now I'm here to share it with you.
Are your scores struggling with consistency? Do you have issues with constantly leaving a 10 pin or a 7 pin, or you seem to bowl good the first 2 games of league and then all of a sudden the third game just seems like, you know, you're still doing the same thing but you're just not getting the same result? Well, I'm here to liberate you from your bad bowling with the introduction to understanding oil adjustments and how to combat things you're seeing on the lane that are caused by the oil pattern and not the bowler. So let's get into it. A couple things you guys should be looking for when it comes to adjusting to the oil on the lane are you really got to listen to what your ball is telling you. So I'm going to throw a series of shots and you're going to see a bunch of different things. So I'm going to show you a shot that overhooks, I'm going to show you a shot that just doesn't carry, and I'm going to show you a shot that strikes. And you'll be able to see the difference. You just saw 3 consecutive shots. One hooked way too much, one left a pocket 710, every bowler's worst enemy. So, and then you saw one strike fairly beautifully. So, I'm going to explain the difference, and I would say that I executed all 3 of those shots really well. But what was the major difference? Some things that you could take away from those shots would be, oh, his ball went down the lane in a different spot than it did on some of the other shots. But there's more to it than just that. So I'm just going to kind of go slightly in depth, and I'm going to break down a couple of the things that you saw. The shot that overhooked, I used the same hand position, same ball speed as I did on the shot that 710. So the major difference was I didn't change how I threw the ball, I just changed where I threw the ball. Now, as a bowler, people get upset about, you know, leaving a 10 pin, leaving a 7 pin, just, you know, hitting the pocket and not striking like you saw with the 710. But before you even get that far, you got to start hitting the pocket. So you saw how I missed the pocket on the first shot. So generally when it's a big overhook, which is, you know, goes way past the head pin like that, you have to find the oil on the lane. So what does that mean exactly? Well, let me break it down for you a little bit. So for those who know how to count the boards, and maybe I'll need to make a video of how to count the boards, is, so boards, arrows, the boards and arrows kind of go together. So you have boards 1 through 10, and they're separated from the first arrow being board 5 and the second arrow being board 10. So generally in that area, it is very dry. Typically speaking about a house shot, extremely dry. Most of the time you get it there, your ball is going to hook. So what is further left of that? So from board 11 all the way to about board 30, you're going to have oil on the lane. That's the general concentration spot where most of the oil is on any house shot. So now do keep in mind some of these adjustments may not make sense for sport patterns, but I'm going to go into that in another video. This is all about house shots and helping the average bowler. So the oil is in the middle of the lane. So you need to be left of second arrow if you want to find the oil. Now, a freshly oiled shot, you can be a little right of the second arrow. Generally, you don't ever need to be on the first arrow on a house shot unless you're specifically doing that with a specific ball. But we can get into how that might work a little later. So, back to the 710. Before I got to the 710, I moved my feet. In other words, I put my ball in the oil to where it was able to skid down the lane and then hook the proper amount. Now, it overhooked because it didn't have any oil to slide in or skid in. Remember that word skid, because it's going to be very important later in this video. But the ball experienced what more, I would say, experienced bowlers would say is the hook phase. It got into the hook phase, which means, and it's very simple, just when the ball starts to hook. Now, when the ball starts to hook, you can see it changing direction a lot, like you saw in the video. So we'll leave it at that. Now, the 710, that when you hit the pocket, and it was a decent pocket hit, but it left the 710, so it didn't strike. So was that unlucky, or was it just physics? Now, I know, kind of nerdy calling physics and bowling, but you guys got to really pay attention to this. The direction that the ball is spinning, in some of my other videos, I went into getting into the hand positions. You know, quick recap on that would be, you know, up the back, and then when, you know, you rotate your hand in, you get more around the ball. And the more forward your ball, the earlier it's going to read, the less it's going to hook down lane. And the more around it, the later it's going to read, conserving more energy, and allows it to hit the pins harder at the right time. So, the 710, as a bowler, I knew that my ball was rolling in the oil a little too long, and in the back part of the lane, it straightened out a little too much, and didn't go through the pins quite right. Now, on the strike ball, after I saw the 710, the ball that did strike, what I did from the 710 to the strike was I modified my hand position, and I slowed down just a hair, maybe like half a mile an hour, and that's about it. And what it did was it allowed the ball to skid down the lane. It didn't get into the hook phase too soon or too late, so it still hit the pocket about the same way, but it retained energy. Now, generally when bowlers say a ball has a lot of energy, it means it has a lot more back end motion on it. And this is more vocabulary, but when people say a ball rolls out, that means it's losing its energy. So so the ball rolled out and didn't have enough energy, yet it still hit the pocket, but it's 710. Now on the shot that struck, the ball had more energy and was able to drive through the pins hard enough to knock them all down. Now you'll see sometimes on things that aren't as drastic as a 710, just a 10 pin, it's the same thing. You got to give your ball a little more energy or get it to hook at a different foot distance on the lane. So now we're going to break it down a little more intensely. Okay, so I know there's not a lot of bowling in this video because a lot of it is a lot of talking. You got to kind of understand it, but we're going to get to a couple more shots soon. So, understanding the 3 phases of ball motion. I'm going to give you 3 vocabulary words, and they should stick with you. So you have skid, hook, and roll. And I'm going to give you a quick explanation of what to look for when you're trying to identify them. There are tons of great videos online. I know USBC does a really good one on explaining it, but here's my version in a simple nutshell. So, skid. The skid phase is different from ball to ball, company to company, and from lane to lane, shot to shot. So what it encompasses is how long the ball skids for. So the ball is going to skid. It is considered that it's skidding or hydroplaning through the oil until the ball starts to change direction, meaning it stays on a straight plane until the ball experiences some sort of friction and starts to hook. Now, keyword, hook. That means hook phase. So when the ball starts to change direction, meaning it starts to make its move to the left, or for a left-hander starts to make its move to the right, that the ball is experiencing friction and it's starting to hook, meaning the core is turning over and then the track flare lines on your bowling ball, the little oil rings you see, are starting to take effect. Now, when the ball hooks and it's done hooking, they call it the roll phase. Now, controlling the roll phase is something the pros do a lot. If you're really good at it, you can throw a lot of strikes. So the roll phase is what really determines the 710, the strike, or just hitting the pocket in general. Being able to control that is huge. And how do you control it? With the skid in the hook phase. So you don't have to worry about the roll phase if you keep worrying about the skid in the hook phase. And what you do is you get more skid with more oil, and you get more hook with less oil or a stronger ball, which I'm going to go into ball selection a little bit later in the video. So another major part about understanding the oil and adjustments is knowing your equipment and ball selection. So generally what you want to do is you want to try to play as far right as possible to start. I mean, you don't need to get extreme, but you want to take the ball that's going to be smoothest and the one that is going to allow you to play a little bit straighter angle, and then as the oil depletes or the bowling balls start stripping the oil off the lane, what you want to do is you slowly want to move left and move left and move left. Now, some balls work better curving it, and other balls work better going straight. Now that's partly because of the core, cover stock, and the drilling that was put on it. So I'm going to have 3 bowling balls that are somewhat similar, but I'm going to show you the differences between a ball that is meant to really hook down lane and a ball that's meant to go a little bit straighter. So I'm going to throw them in a certain order. I'm going to throw the ball that's going to go straight, and I'm going to throw the ball that's going to be kind of like a medium hooking ball that's in between, and then I'm going to throw the ball that's meant for more friction. So in these series of shots, you're going to see some things, and then I'm going to explain what you just saw and why one might be better than the other for the given condition in the moment you're going to see. So, what did you guys just see between those 3 bowling balls, and how did they look? So the first one, now, do keep in mind this lane probably hadn't been oiled in a couple of days, but you still got to see the comparison between the couple balls. So, the first one that I threw was much more, in bowling terms, we call it slower, meaning it's got a very gentle hook. It doesn't break too violently. And why would I prefer that over maybe the second one? Well, I'll get into that. So when you first start out on a bowling pattern, you want to try to play as straight as you can. You do not want to try to create a ton of angle in the very beginning, unless you absolutely have to. So with that straighter ball, it allows me to stay a little bit straighter, and it starts taking oil off of the right part of the lane, and then you slowly migrate in and in and in. Now that second ball, it looked pretty good, but here's the kicker. Let's say that you were on a fresh pattern and that ball was just now coming into play, but there is too much oil for it. Yes, it hooks a lot, but it may not enter the pins the right way, and you may not carry with it, whereas the other ball is going to go to the pins the right way, even though you might be playing a little bit different line. And then the very last ball you guys saw was that crazy monster, right to left hook, but, yeah, it's a pretty strike, it's cool, but at the same time, every ball has a certain purpose. Now, it's just a house shot, and you can pretty much do whatever you want with any ball. As you just saw, there's 3 different lines, and each ball looked good in its own right. But ball selection is very important and can make or break you when it comes to, carrying consistently. So, as you can see, my shirt changed from a couple of these clips because, my batteries keep on dying on me. Seem to be a little unreliable. But anyways, back to the point at hand here. So you're going for your ball selection, you're in league, and you don't know what ball to throw. You seem to have struck with all of them, and now you're kind of thinking to yourself, okay, well, they all seem good. So here's how you go in order. So every bowling ball has a certain purpose, and if your pro shop operator or yourself did a good job at setting up your arsenal, you should have a stronger one, a medium strength one, and a little bit weaker one. So your stronger bowling ball is for higher volume of oil, meaning like the more oil. That doesn't necessarily mean longer oil, it just means higher volume, like this, not like this. So that ball is going to perform better in more oil, so a fresh condition. Now your medium strength ball, when there's still a good amount of oil, but some of it has been taken away through a lot of bowling, that ball almost needs it to be a little bit drier to really start performing. And now your really weak ball, like the last ball that's going to be out of your bag, that ball needs, and in the video it looked like as if the ball hooked way more than the other ones, but it's really just an illusion. So if I were to throw that last ball out of the bag on oil, it would go really straight, or it would come in behind the head pin way too much, and it would just keep on leaving either pocket splits or you know, just corner pins and, you know, frustration over frustration there. So here's how to take out the right ball at the right time. So you always want to start off with your strongest ball and you want to watch. Now, it will start out, it'll hook a lot, but what happens when all of a sudden you're bowling, game goes by, maybe another game goes by, and that ball just stops hooking, and you're like, oh, I don't know what's happening. Well, there's a term called carry down. Now, there's a huge debate on whether carry down actually exists or not, but it's just a silly term for when oil is taken out of the front part of the lane, aka the skid zone of the 3 phases of ball motion: skid, hook, roll. So when there's no oil in that skid zone, the stronger bowling balls, they still try to hook, but they get in that hook face too fast, and then they don't have enough energy to continue down lane, thus producing the annoying 10-pin, pocket 710, and flat 7. So when that happens, you start losing oil in the front part of the lane, and your bowling balls, or your strong bowling balls, stop hooking. They call that balling down, meaning you take the next strongest ball in your bag and you start throwing it, because that will shorten the gap of energy that the other one is losing. So, and now this happens in succession. So like, let's say you're in the PBA like I am, and you're bowling an 8-game block. So at first, yeah, I'm going to use a pretty strong ball. There's a lot of oil. But as time goes on, more bowling balls go down the lane. Those bowling balls, they suck the oil up off the lane. And then I need to switch to a weaker ball that can handle a smaller volume of oil. And then so on. I just keep going to a weaker and weaker ball. So that's about all the adjustments that you need to know for a house shot. If you guys are super excited with this oil adjustment stuff and you want me to do some sports shot videos, let me know in the comments. I greatly appreciate you guys watching these videos. I do it for the bowlers. I do it for the homies. Bless up. But I'm really doing this for you guys. If you're watching these videos, I can guarantee you this advice will help you and make you better. Thanks for watching. Also, like and subscribe if you want me to keep making videos, and or you want to know when the newest and latest and greatest videos are coming. I'm going to be doing this. I'm trying to do a video once a week, every week. I'm going to try to start doing 2 a week if I can. Also, like I said earlier, Mountain Dew, if you're out there, I know you're watching, sponsor me.